Although the championship is over, there are still some ongoing battles that are going to be very interesting until the last race in Abu Dhabi. At least that's what the F1 fans are hoping for, although the F1 teams that are involved in these fights are going to do everything that is in their own power to prevent this from happening. With Verstappen and Red Bull clinching the championship at Suzuka and Austin respectively, what are some of the battles we could witness in the last 3 races of the season? Let's start with the one that is less interesting compared to the other one, and that is the McLaren and Alpine fight. These two teams are very competitive towards each other, and although McLaren is a team that has struggled a lot with pure pace in the 2022 season, they have managed to be very close to Alpine in terms of Constructors' Championship, thanks to the reliability of the MCL 36. That isn't something that Alpine can brag about, and given the fact that there are 3 races remaining on the calendar, the French constructors need to work on the reliability of the engine as much as possible in order to secure the P4 spot. This is something that would bring a lot of extra cash for the team, and only 1 point could be decisive as to where these teams would finish after the Abu Dhabi GP. Both of the sides have spoken about the ongoing battle, with McLaren taking the underdog status on themselves, while Alpine have talked about Mercedes being their rivals rather than McLaren. Although the French team took a deep dig towards McLaren, the fact that they will have a hard time battling down the Woking-based team is something they need to face as soon as possible and focus on the last 3 races on the calendar. There is a bit of bad blood between these two teams due to the fact that Piastri, who was Alpine's protege, left the team to join their fiercest rivals, McLaren. Although this was mostly Alpine's fault because they didn't secure him a starting spot when they had the first chance, as they used him more as a bargaining chip in trying to extend Alonso's deal in terms that would suit the team more, the facts stand as they are. When talking about the remainder of the 2022 season, McLaren's team principal, Andreas Seidel, gave an assessment of the remainder of the season, saying, "It's important now for us really to focus on ourselves, make sure that we execute clean weekends, extract every single session the maximum we have at the moment in our car. Only then do we have a chance to stay in the battle with a very strong Alpine team. We have to acknowledge they did a great job so far this season. It will be very tough for us to stay in this battle until the last day in Abu Dhabi, but that's what we're here for." Reliability will play an important part as well in the last races now. But still, I think we have a good car, we have a good team, we have 2 strong drivers, and if we get our act together, I'm sure we can stay in this battle until the last lap. Lando Norris also spoke about the pace that Alpine has compared to McLaren, saying that they are in a different league compared to the Woking-based team, and it's very unclear to him as to how McLaren is still in this battle. They are in another league to us at the minute. I'm happy we've been able to fight them so far in the season. It shows we've done a very good job in other areas. In reliability and maximizing our performances, taking opportunities and not making mistakes. They must have done a lot worse than us in all of those areas to only just be ahead of us in the championship with the car they have. Not a surprise, it's not a big fight at the minute because they are so much quicker, but we'll keep trying and limit the points lost to them. This was harshly responded to by Alpine, as Alan Permain, the technical director of the team, said, "Lando loves to keep quoting that, doesn't he? But we only need to just be ahead. I'm not quite sure why he keeps on. I guess we've got him rattled. We're much more focused on Mercedes and trying to beat Mercedes. We're trying to get ourselves onto that sort of level." Of course, we had a huge setback in Singapore, but I think in Japan it's all back to normal. I imagine that in the next races we can do the same. The car is clearly getting quicker, and I think it's getting closer to those top guys. After every race, we look at where we are in terms of percentage-wise away from pole and things like that, and I'm sure we are closer than we've ever been this season. So it's definitely going in the right direction. I would much rather go into Abu Dhabi 40 points in front of them than 1 point in front of them. But after Abu Dhabi, I don't care if we are 1 point or 40 points clear. 4th is our target. As long as we are 4th, that's really what counts. So this leaves us 3 races left to battle, and the fact that Norris gathered 8 points while Alpine gathered only 1 point in the USA means that these teams are separated by just 6 points. As of now, the momentum is towards Alpine because Alonso was running at P7 after suffering from a tremendous crash, but lost a position due to a 30-second penalty applied to his name. Hadn't it been for this, it's likely that the French team would have finished with a lot more points. Let's go into the next fight, which, although it seems like it favors Ferrari more than it favors Mercedes, yet again the reliability of the engine could be a decisive factor. These two teams are separated by 53 points, which may seem like a lot, but it's easier to gather given the fact that they are top teams and they have a chance of fighting for a large number of points compared to McLaren and Alpine. With Sainz not finishing the USA GP, Mercedes managed to narrow down the difference by having Hamilton finish P2 and Russell finishing P5. This means that the team gathered 29 points, while Leclerc gathered 15 points for the team. Hadn't it been for the awful weekends Mercedes had in Singapore and Suzuka, the difference would have been very much narrowed down, possibly to a single-digit difference. Still, we've seen that Sainz retired on 2 consecutive weekends, although the USA GP wasn't due to his fault, given the fact that Russell locked up and hit him from the side. The damage was irreparable, and the Spaniard had to retire yet again after aquaplaning in Suzuka. The outcome of this race saw Hamilton being just 4 points away from P5 in the Drivers' Championship, which is something he plans to capitalize on if Sainz continues to have trouble in the last 3 races. But with how Red Bull dominates the season as of now, it's very likely that these teams will have to fight from P2 below, with Perez being the only Red Bull competitor between them. As for Ferrari, the team has tried to stay in the championship fight for as long as they could, but when it became evident that Red Bull built a rocket ship, Ferrari has been struck by bad luck and lots of missed calls and retirements due to reliability issues. They took 2 huge hits in Budapest and France, where both Mercedes drivers finished P2 and P3, and the Ferrari drivers were nowhere to be found on the podium. The remainder of the calendar seems to favour the Maranello team more than the Brackley-based team, but we all know what experience brings to the table, and we might see the best out of Hamilton in the last 3 races. Therefore, if Ferrari wants to secure the P2 spot before the last race in Abu Dhabi, they would have to be more regular on the podium and be really careful to stay out of trouble. Many think now that Mercedes' focus is on the 2023 season, but they aren't likely to push in the last 3 races of the calendar. However, this isn't the case, as Mercedes are facing their first winless season from 2011 onwards, and Hamilton is facing his first winless season of his career. Rest assured that they won't settle for this, as they'll keep pushing as hard as possible in order to achieve these results. What do you think will happen next for the remainder of the season? What team are you cheering for the remainder of the season? Let us know in the comments below.